everyone. I'm Janet with McLean and Company, and I'm here with Edie Goldberg, future of work expert and author of the book, The Inside Gig, which I happened to pick up. First, Edie, thanks for joining us today and for contributing to McLean's research on internal talent marketplaces. Before I dive in, I just want to provide for our audience our definition of internal talent marketplace so we all kind of know what we're talking about. There's so many definitions out there. They're all just a little bit different sometimes. So we define internal talent marketplace as a technology-enabled platform that uses AI to match people to opportunities based on their skills, based on their interests, based on their aspirations. And that can include all kinds of things. So we think of opportunities in terms of internal gigs, temporary projects, full-time roles, mentorships, learning experiences, and not all platforms have all of those. But that's kind of what we're talking about when we define internal talent marketplace. So let's dive in. Edie, as we discussed in our first interview, implementing a talent marketplace for organizations requires a really huge culture shift, and managers really need to change their mindsets, right? To be successful in this endeavor. So what advice do you have for organizations for kind of getting managers out of, what you referred to before as talent scarcity mindset to a talent abundance one?
That's a really great question. And in fact, it's actually, I think, one of the hardest things to overcome when implementing an internal talent mobility solution. So thanks for asking it. I kind of tend to approach this in two different ways. One is we always need to start with the what's in it for me, right? So how do we get somebody to change their ways of working? You got to approach them with what's in it for you. Most managers have a bunch of projects that are sitting on a back shelf somewhere because they don't either have the talent or the capacity that they need to get that project done, but it's important to them. Well, by opening up this mindset that it's not just about the scarcity, the talent that you have on your team, but it's about the talent that exists within the company, the abundance of talent you have access to, you can actually shift that idea of you can get your projects done by borrowing talent from elsewhere in the organization. They're like, great, I'm all for getting talent from elsewhere. But this requires what we talk about in our book is this you get what you give response, which is in order to get talent from elsewhere in the organization, you also have to let your employees opt into projects elsewhere in the company to work on things that they're passionate about, that they're interested in. And you're thinking, no, I can't because I need my talent to get all my projects done. But when you give an employee 5, 10, maybe 10% of their time to go work on a project elsewhere, what you get back out of that is an employee who's maybe learning a new skill that you can then integrate into your team, or they're gaining a new perspective about working with a different part of the organization that helps open up their mind and improve the work of your team. But most importantly, by allowing people to have access to different opportunities that create learning for them, you retain your talent for longer. So you can hoard your talent and not let them go anywhere, in which case you're likely to lose them. Or you can view talent as an abundance. You can give talent to other teams and you will get talent in return. And it's really a win-win. So that's the kind of what's in it for me approach. The other approach, which is highly effective in the companies that I've worked with to implement this new technology and new way of working, is storytelling. When you share stories about managers and how this has worked for them, it really turns on some lights that makes them think, oh, okay, I can do that. So for example, one manager that I was working with from a company called Here Technologies, technology company. Their engineering team had created a new platform that would help other teams do their work more efficiently and effectively. And they had identified the company's data scientists as great users for this new platform. So they set out to create a toolkit that would help the data scientists understand how to use this new platform. Fabulous. Except for really quickly, one of the engineers came running into his boss's office and said, boss, you asked us to create a toolkit for the data scientists, but they all code in Python and we all code in Java. We literally speak different languages. And the engineering manager thought, my God, this is terrible. I have absolutely no idea how to find people who code in Python. But he put a project out onto this talent marketplace internally and very quickly found multiple people from different parts of the organization that had Python skills and were willing to loan just a small amount of their time to help them work on that project. And that manager said, I would have never been able to get my project done on time and on budget without the ability to borrow talent within our organization. And those employees' managers were willing to lend their talent because they knew they would ultimately get it in return when they needed to get something done.
Yeah, it sounds kind of radical, but you definitely can see the win-win in that whole idea of sharing talent. Just such a great approach, and the storytelling approach I especially like because it really brings it to life, right? And I think it makes it less daunting a task when it's like, oh, this can really work for everybody all the way around, including me as the manager, right? So, Rick,
Absolutely.
thank you. That's just been great information and for sharing that example. I just have one more quick question, if I could, and that's really what would you say to an organization who's just getting started on this journey in terms of internal talent marketplace?
The one piece of advice that I would have is related to the one biggest failure I see when people try and implement a new process like this. Don't over-engineer it. Don't over-manage it. I have seen companies try and create, when I open up a project and I'm looking for internal candidates, to treat it like a search for a new employee. You have to interview people. You make it this really laborious where I have to jump through a bunch of hoops. They're your employees. They're already vetted. They understand your culture. Don't make it so hard. The other thing is, um, we don't require employees to tell their manager that they're looking at a project opportunity because you wouldn't know if they were looking for a job outside of your company.
Right.
Let's wait until they find out whether or not they're actually a match with a project and a project manager wants to get some of their time to work on a project before they engage with their manager and like, how are we going to make this work? Where might I be able to shift something around, some work around, maybe for somebody else to take on a project that gives me room to do this new project, or maybe a meeting that I don't really need to attend, and that would give me, an extra hour a week that I could devote to this other project. So let's not make people jump through hoops that they wouldn't normally have to jump through, and make the process easy.
Great advice. Great advice. Keep it simple.
Exactly.
Well, thanks, Edie. Thanks again for joining us, for sharing all these great insights, and for contributing to our research on internal talent marketplaces. Talk soon.
Thank you so much.